Welcome to Tiff Does Loans podcast. So today I have the beautiful Nasheen Noor.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming. We did meet this New Year's Eve.
Yes.
Instantly, she came up in this like big pink jacket. And I'm like, I need to be her friend. And we did indeed. I spent pretty much the whole night with her, dancing and bringing in that new year. So thank you so much for coming and just for that night. The group that we were with was just all great people.
Amazing.
And so just so much fun. And then today, why don't you just tell us how you got into real estate and kind of your journey and your inspiration there.
Sure. Well, I want to start by saying thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It was a really good time to meet you on New Year's Eve. And I know we talked a lot about, your business and real estate and, mortgages and rates, all the fun stuff, even though it's New Year's Eve.
We danced while we talked about it.
I like the rates. So thank you very much. I'm really happy and excited to be here. So how did I start my real estate journey? Well, the way it started is that I'm a second generation realtor. So my family in New York City, that's where I grew up.
Wow.
My family's been in real estate for 3 decades, to this day. So I just grew up with real estate. Like I would always see like my aunts, uncles, just buying property, reselling them, things like that. I would just hear conversations in the house. And sometimes we went to like little open houses because back in the day they didn't have Zillow. They had like a book or something and no GPS. So anyways, that's pretty much what inspired me because I would see how they used to dress and all the all the intricate parts that come into it. But I mean, I'm a creative, so I did explore a different career. I had a career in digital graphic design and marketing. I worked for a marketing company for a couple of years. And then it was just like, no, I just knew that I was going to be in real estate. That's how I was pretty much like raised, So I did try my creative side. I still get to be creative because I like to design all my
marketing,
all my stuff for
real estate is like all marketing. So you just you're just leveled up than everybody else had to like teach themselves.
Exactly.
This year.
I know. And so when I first started my career, it was cool because I didn't have to spend like thousands on the marketing. Like if I listed a property, people would reach out.
Do it yourself.
Just did it myself. It was fun. And I'm like,
people are like, oh my gosh, I spent you probably did it within minutes. And they're probably over here spending thousands.
Yeah. Because
especially
it's expensive.
even now, it's probably a lot worse. Like just to have editing paid for, or
oh my gosh, it's a lot.
It's getting very pricey.
It adds to the cost of let's say we're putting a home on the market. It's an added cost because as the listing agents, we take on the cost for all the marketing. So so it really helps in that way. So I love that I get to be creative and I get to do what I love, which is helping people buy and sell real estate and invest in real estate and help them build wealth ultimately,
I love that.
Yeah.
How was that? Did you start in New York or did you wait until you got here?
No, I moved here.
Okay.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, and that's when I started my career here.
Wow. But they did everything in New York. I feel like that would just be a wild market. And
it's
as
crazy
a lender,
over there.
We don't really, honestly, most lenders out there, it's really hard for, even when I worked for the big retail, they did not do New York. It was like New York and Hawaii. So when it comes to lenders, it's really hard to get I wonder what they're doing over there because it is hard to get funding I guess just because like how all of their parcels are and they're more like built
the
up.
Buildings,
How the buildings are built. Yeah.
Co-ops, you know, there's a lot of co-ops there, which are
Make
like
it difficult.
those buildings.
So the big banks don't really touch it. So I was always curious about that, like how that would be, because it seems like there'd be a little holdup in the funding.
Their escrows take like 3 months.
I could see that.
And it's an attorney state. I'm like, what?
There's got to be, because the quick, I mean, the
3
funding.
months. I'm like, that's crazy, you know? Because I'll tell them, oh, yeah, close it in 12 days.
Oh, my
They're
gosh,
like,
that's how we
I don't
are.
understand. You told me you were under contract. You were just, you know, negotiating, you know, just
Imagine
a week
3
ago.
months.
I'm like, we're
I
closed. Gave the buyer their keys. They're moving in. They're like, I don't understand that. How? I'm like, the realtors do all the work here, you know. In regards to the transaction, of course, we have our entire team, like lenders, and I mean, it takes 35 people average to close one transaction.
100%. And if you have the right escrow, that's why I'm always urging people, like, pick your team in this market.
Yes.
Like, it's
and
the
don't
most,
change them.
Yeah.
If they're
it's like
good to
dating,
you.
man. Like, it's the most important thing. Like, if you are going to embark on purchasing in this market, definitely have your people and know that they are efficient and good communicators, because, you know, a lot of people will, it's just like if you're dating somebody, they'll talk the talk, but like, and then it's like, now you're invested, and then it's like they just drop off the, you know,
they went on,
get ghosted.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like I am the opposite. And like I keep, even if there's no update, I update, you know?
Exactly.
And they appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, nothing today. Don't panic.
Yeah. Like, if you don't hear from me for 2-3 days, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just remember that we're all working in the background. Our job is to not bother you unless something really needs to be addressed.
Yeah,
we're
unless you have
gonna
to
take care of it.
Like, I'll let you know, but I'm gonna, like, sometimes if there's a reason to panic, like I'll even be like, hey, I'll even tell the realtor, like, look, this popped up. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
It could be really bad, but it could not.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
let's square it away between us. Yeah.
I was like, it might be like 24 hours. But absolutely, when you have like the 3 teams that are crushing it, I mean, even on a VA loan once, the one I'll never forget, but we got it clear to close in like 7 days on a VA loan. And it was because like escrow was awesome, listing was awesome, like I was awesome, the buyers,
they had everything.
Just everybody, good communication. So in this market, and it seems like you've seen throughout all the markets, like
quite a few. Yeah.
So I feel like even though you didn't do all of the different markets, seeing that and learning from them already, now that we've been in this market, like what kind of pivots have you made, like you and your team made in this challenging time?
Sure. So, you know, we had the crazy market where there were like 30, 40 offers on a house, sometimes
like
100. Like 2020, 2021, 22. And then by the third quarter in 2023, we had almost like mid-8s interest rates, right? So that was like a big, it kind of just really, it was like, hey, let's hold the horses back, you know, like
this is just terrible. I know, I'm getting anxiety just talking about it.
And home prices had climbed so much. I mean, they had kind of gone up like at least 50% from, and that's
a couple years ago.
Yeah. So
like from 2020.
Yeah.
I think it's like 28 to. Yeah, like
some of them with the bidding wars, they were closer to even 40%. Some 50%.
Gosh.
So unfortunately, because everyone was trying to lock in the low rates, and refis and all the things, and people had equity already in their homes because of that increase, and so they were like, oh, let's go invest in more properties, pull some equity 100%. Out. The rates were so low, you could do a HELOC, a HE loan, but at the time HELOCs became really popular because the rates were just crazy. Like, why wouldn't you borrow money at that rate, right?
Yeah.
Why just let it sit there? Like, hey, let's go pick up 3 more homes, investment properties, So that's kind of what happened then. And so since the 2023, the increase in rates, and they were like even more than double, right?
Yeah.
So
no, it did. That was 22 from January. We're in 3.25 or like 3.5. By September, October, it had went up to 7.5, like 7.75. So it had literally doubled. And that was insane.
In a few months.
For people that, the sad thing was that year, people that were building. So, because you don't get to lock your rate, or like they had deals going on, but you don't really go through that process until your home is actually built.
Yeah.
So
because what are you lending on?
They qualified and they locked in earlier that year, and then now their homes are built. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people had to let those new builds go.
Yeah.
Like, because then they didn't qualify with like double.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a sad time. Like, that was pretty.
Absolutely.
That was awful.
It was. So what happened is with the current market, how did we pivot? So, I mean, I do a lot of trainings and masterminds in my Keller Williams office also, and we're always trying to, grow together and mastermind and learn and really just study the market and see how we can keep going, with whatever we have. And so one of the things is like you have to just explain, like really having the conversations with buyers and sellers as to like their pros and cons. Now, what are the pros for a seller? They have a tremendous amount of equity. I mean, every homeowner in America, like I would say about 80% of homeowners in the United States, they do have more than, of course, 20% equity. So there's a lot of money sitting there. So some people really have to move, and it's just really identifying what their goals are. Like, if their goals are like, I can wait 5 years, okay, then, but what are the pros and cons of you waiting 5 more years or 2 years, waiting for those unicorn rates again, to come back so that you could get your dream house, because now you've had your family grew, you had another child or something happened, or a elderly parent moving in, so just really identifying. And that's where the skill set, that's where the realtors have to have that skill set and just be really really impactful and really explain to them like this versus this. And we recommend, hey, look at the numbers for if you purchase today. I know the rates are not on our side, but if you sold and you purchased, like there's a way we can balance it out for you, because the home that you're trying to move into, it's going to appreciate at X amount of,
and
at
out
X
here,
amount.
I think it's been like 7 to 10%.
And so if your home is $1 million, but you need to go into a $3.5 million home. I mean, just using really basic numbers. I mean, that's not even the average price of a home here anymore. It's 1.3. So you have to explain to them, look, that 10% equates to a lot more, so you're never going to catch up. So that's the conversation. Those are the conversations that agents really need to have with their clients. And I don't know if that's happening, because they're like, well, I don't know, where would I go? Well, we have to be creative, and we have to see how we can help. Now, the other thing, the other conversations are like, hey, I understand, let's say, mom and dad, and then they have adult children. They're working. They're renting different spaces, right? And so one of the things I've seen is like families coming together to purchase a home. So like, let's say,
I've done that a lot,
right? So you
like
see
we
that.
can put up to 4.
4 people
I've had
on the loan.
Couples and one of their sets of parents.
And it's great because it gives, it provides that opportunity for them to, pay a mortgage, but paying themselves, instead of like, okay, our combined rent is $8,000 a month, well, why don't we live together and we basically just, put that towards a mortgage,
and some aren't going to live with them either. Like
exactly.
In this case, they all loved to be together, and they were kind of already together, so it worked out. But I feel like some might just want to help. But I do love that, and there needs to be more realtors like you. And I feel like some might not press on that because they're like, oh, well, they're kind of going over those things maybe like with the lender. But it is important to have that full, like, to build that roadmap for them.
Yeah.
And like, and I feel like a lot just think that it's not possible or don't have the full, just like that full sit down and education and how it could work, but that's where it's kind of like to us to bring it up. Like mine is more like by the time they're with me, it's like I'm basically painting that picture like, more on a numbers game.
Yeah.
But I do love that. I can tell the difference when I'm working with them and they're working with a realtor that knows what their needs are, where they're going. Yep. They have laid down their whole,
roadmap.
Like they're everything what they think is going to go wrong and then kind of deliver them already. But I can absolutely, when it comes to them making decisions or, they're just more confident.
Oh, yeah.
If you feel like you've laid that down with your realtor, so I think that's huge and like a bonus, and that's why you guys are still crushing it even in this market.
It's just, it comes down to, like you just said, really just education. It's like, like I read real estate articles. I watch, different, of course, like on YouTube, you have the ones that are like, oh, the whole, it's all going to come crashing down, so don't buy yet. Wait. And it's like, don't listen to that. That's the one guy, who's never bought a house. Like he's in his you're like, I
don't even know where he is. But
anyways, he's not the one to listen to. It's basically numbers, right? Like, so let's say the Orange County market last year, there were like not even 30,000 transactions of residential units. There's 3.7 million people in Orange County. Can you imagine? Like, that's why there's so much of a pressure on the housing market, so in regards to changing market, yes, the high rates, yes, it's scary, but to be better able to afford the payment, go buy a home with friends. That's happening all over too. Like, friends are getting together and they're like, hey, let's two couples maybe, or two
we can
friends.
Only do up to 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Up to 4.
Yeah, up to 4 people on the loan.
4.
But 4 people is a lot. I mean, think about it. If they're all working, like you can get a pretty good house, So those are different ways to to present. Now with investors during this time, investors are like, oh my God, look at these rates. But that also gives us an opportunity to kind of try and negotiate on the pricing, And so if it's a strong buyer, they have all their ducks in a row as an investor, like, we could totally try to negotiate on the price, So there's different strategies because I'm like, hey, if we can,
out here, in this market even. Getting them like seller credits. And,
all the fun stuff, So just being able to negotiate on the pricing a little bit, because the price of the property never changes. The price you close at never ever changes. The rate over the years, like, what is it? Like date the rate. And marry the house and date the rate. Like, it's so funny. And it's true because people have, your payment can change. Like when rates do go down a little bit, we're hoping soon.
Yes.
Even if it's 1%, like on a $1 million property, that is a significant amount that can, change.
And people are going to be refinancing in this market, in these markets, like multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
So even the people, a lot of people got in on that last one. So if they were like in 7.75, it was down. If you were like an FHA, we got you down to like 5%.
Yeah.
So those were definitely happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
But conventional didn't move as much. So there's still a lot of people with a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people right now too, either this year, one of my kind of like predictions is going to bring, I don't know, like if they stay as high for maybe most of the year, like I'm hoping that we get closer to those 5s, and we've just been in fluctuation. But with their I feel like there's going to be a lot more people by the end of the year, if the rates don't go down, that they're going to be a little forced to refinance out of those lower rates, because they're going to need to tap into that equity and clear some debt. And or maybe just like you kind of mentioned earlier, like some people might feel a little stuck in their homes.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel like people who bought in 2020.
Oh yeah.
And now it's like 2025, and they were like, it's 5 years. We were supposed to be here for 2 years. And that usual, like the real estate pitch, like, hey, live here for 2 years.
Got a condo or something.
Yeah. Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah, and they have
got a condo. And now
kids, and now it's like, oh my God, we're on top of each other. People work from home. It's like, what do we do?
Like, so the 7% rate is going to, like, at that point, I would be like, okay, we're going to have to make it work.
Yeah, and
you need to start a business, pick up more hours.
Right? Like side jobs, side hustles all day long. So, also if we see rates go down 1%, I mean, gosh, we're going to see home prices go up so much higher. And so now you're competing against way more people. And so those are the things that agents really need to convey to their client. They're like, we're just waiting. It's like, no, don't, because you're going to be competing. Instead of 5 buyers, you're going to have 20 or 30. And you're going to pay a lot more for the house.
It would be a better time, like, say if you don't, we call them like cookie cutter. Like if you're a cookie cutter and you got like a ton of money and like an 800 credit score, it really, it's one of those things you have that privilege of acting whenever. But if you are someone that, the credit's kind of fluctuating, you're kind of on the back end, like we call it like, sometimes it's like if you're at the ceiling, like you're not allowed to spend anything type thing. I mean, in a market like this, you do want to keep your eyes peeled, because you're definitely, like, you have somebody like Nasheen, she's going to be able to get your closing costs covered. She's going to get your pricing down low. Like, she's going to get you a stove. I don't know.
Negotiate.
She's going to negotiate, like, so many things when it comes to, if you wait, now you're going up against all the people that are going to be throwing down more, and you're just not going to have that wiggle room. And then it's like, now it's a year later and you've missed both waves. So I feel like, again, that's just a little more on us, like with education for 100%. Them to try to, like now is the time if you can afford it. Like,
Yeah. When people ask, is it a good time to buy? And what I tell them is, if everything works out for you, you have everything required to make a purchase, then it's the right time to buy for you.
For you
it's
and your
very
family.
Person specific, because the best time to buy was like 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But if you weren't ready, what difference does it make? So that's something really important too. Like, just giving those bits of, knowledge like that, because knowledge is really power, right? I sound like, I'm just using cliche quotes, but that is so true when it comes to real estate, because these clients, these buyers and sellers, they look to us for advice, because they have their own jobs, their own careers. They're not reading about real estate. They're not out there like as warriors, they're not.
It's just real estate.
They don't know what
it's something they're going to buy that's worth a lot of money. And
they watch the news, and the news is like, oh my God, the rates, and it's just like, but when the news is the news, there's different opinions, but what is actually happening in the market, that's what we need to explain to our clients. Like as of today, there are less than 3,000 homes for sale in all of Orange County, right?
Oh my gosh.
And so think about it. Let me explain this. Where we just had the fires, right, in Los Angeles, the devastating fires. I mean, my heart breaks for them. Families have lost everything. There are 12,000 structures that have been damaged. There are people who need housing. Like 100,000 plus people are still under evacuation orders. Some still don't even know if their home is standing, because you can't enter the the communities, the area. So a lot of these people are coming over here. The rental market is crazy right now. Or it will be crazier because
they
only need
3,000 and there's 12,000.
It's 2,876 as of today.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So what's going to happen to the market? It's going to be very interesting. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, like, where do you see things? I'd be like, a more general photo, right? A picture. Yeah. But now it's like, I don't know, because some people did lose their schools and stuff, and now they're looking for relocation. I am helping 2 families right now try to find housing, but their kids' schools stayed, so they're trying to find something local,
in the area. But I do feel like a lot more people are going to come out to Orange County.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's just they're gonna need you, because that was several areas. So
and the air quality for many months, it'll be a little
bit. It's gonna take a while.
Because there's a lot of like so many things burnt down, right? Those particles are going to be in the air. For children, that's not the best. So, families are having to make really tough decisions right now,
Do you think a lot will leave California?
I was going to get into that. I think at this point, unfortunately,
all the equity either. Like, it's gone.
It's gone, and not only that, a lot of them were just dropped from their insurance.
Yes. So the amount that they get back, I don't know. It's going to be like
I know that some of
300,000.
Yeah, I read that. Well, some of the families I saw, they were saying that the amount that they're getting from the insurance companies, it doesn't cover the rental they're trying to get, like not even 50%.
Yeah.
Because, so now they're in a really difficult situation financially, So does it make sense for them to move out of state at this point?
I think
maybe,
some might at this
because,
point,
with that rental amount, maybe you have to move to a city that can support your family. But unfortunately, if you can't, it's so sad. Breaks my heart. But there's a lot of chaos going on with the housing market right now.
And like you said, a couple of weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Even on New Year's, we were like, today, 2025 is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Real estate, it's going to be booming. And then, now it's like, okay, what is already? It's like barely into January. And like, where it's just our lens is like, again, to guide our clients, it's like, I'm not really sure, but like, we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
Like, let's just get, it's just like any other year that it's been in this market. It's just, I'm staying educated, you're staying educated. And each thing that keeps dropping, it's like, okay, well, now we have this roadblock and this roadblock, but I have a route around it.
Yeah, we have to,
we have to create the routes around.
It's our job.
Because everything has been out of our control, But at this point, it's just pick a team that sees, we're going to get you around the all these blocks that keep coming up. But we might have to loop around a couple times.
Yeah, and even with clients who have a dream of buying a home at some point, like you do consults all the time for them, like, and you kind of give them like a little synopsis, like, okay, this is where you are today. Okay, now we can get you where you need to go. This is what's required, and we can possibly do that in a year and a half, So then they work on that, So that's what I've done too, like over the years. Like I'm like, look, this is where you stand, and this is where you need to be. And then 2 years later, they're like, "Hey, Nasheen,
I'm ready. Yeah,
I'm ready." I'm like, "Oh, cool." I did all the things. Those are the best, and they keep that. They keep the list. They do all the things, and guess what? They're happy in their homes. It took 4 years. But they're there, Well,
I feel
3
like
years,
it's a goal. It's just like should be treated like any goal or like any team, any sport. You got to have, the game plan together, and so many things out of everyone's control are, going to be happening. But it's basically like you if you were training like for a marathon or what have you, you don't just run that marathon. Like you have to eat a certain way, sleep a certain way,
Yep.
do these things. So I think of it like the same way. If you want to be an investor or a homeowner, it's the same, especially in this market where you're starting out. It's not an easy route because now we have high rates and high costs. So it's like, what can you afford? Like you may need to, I call it like a noodle diet, but like you might need to be on like, no eating out for like a year.
Oh,
like, you know what I mean? Like you have to talk about it as a family. Like what are we willing to get rid of? Like,
100%,
and maybe
100%.
It's just that thing that you're, that's really going to push it over and then be like, okay, as soon as, the rates go down, then we can like refinance and then, or tap into some of that equity and, get the family a toy, like, something. So I feel like I pitch it more like a goal and like what, especially in this one, you have to
check
be
in
willing.
and check in with them every few months. Hey, how's it going? Just wanted to say hello and just remind them, even if they don't answer your call, keep calling them, send them a text like, hey, just wanted to check in. And so if let them know, hey, if you fell off the wagon for you kind of splurged on a little trip, okay, let's build it back up. But remember, you have that one goal.
That's when you know that they're, that's when you know if they're like ghosting you. It's because it's like, I see that you just went on that vacation, but
I saw it on your IG.
Saw it on your Instagram.
It looked like a good time.
We both know what you did, but we're going to keep going. And then, okay, so you also, on top of being a fantastic realtor, you are, you have Airbnbs. So I want to get in that. You have Airbnbs out here.
Yeah.
So in California, right? Only?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what areas did you choose and like how was that going?
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so I help people buy and sell real estate, invest in real estate, but I am also an investor, so that was one of my main goals because I knew that investing in real estate, like eventually I don't have to work so hard just to pay my mortgage, so that was the goal. Like they should somehow help towards the main mortgage and then I can kind of do things that I want to spend time doing, like
100%.
So the Airbnbs that I have, they're short-term rentals. 2 of them are full short-term rentals. How do I explain this? They're heavily regulated, right? Because the city, you have to have a business license, have to have a permit. They come and inspect the home. There's a lot of guidelines,
in California.
Yeah, and it differs from city to city. Like, some cities have these rules. Like, some cities are like, oh, your permit is for 5 years. That's great. Nice. Like, because my city, it's...
Is it Orange?
No, they're in Desert Hot Springs. Like 15 minutes of a drive from downtown Palm Springs. They're single-family homes, vacation rentals. So people go there and,
all the time.
It's...
Or like big in like... is by India, right? So like
India's more so. Coachella months are like the biggest.
I had people
money
that
maker.
had Airbnbs out there, like just that month alone,
it's
because
insane,
brought them in like 20,000+.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Like when COVID was canceled, it was like we actually ended up like staying there because of everything got canceled that year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really sad for them. They lost they should have had over 20 G's
the income
just because
during
of that,
those months. Oh my
that
gosh.
area.
Yeah.
Because you have Stagecoach and all those.
Stagecoach year over year.
Is yours affected by that? Like, is yours in that area of like those big...
I have Coachella bookings right now.
Okay,
well, as soon as the tickets go on sale, I think I think around the second week of November.
And it's like probably booked like
they just
instantly.
book it out. Yeah. So I do have one weekend still available, but I think the second weekend I have to just check. But yeah, people book that out, and it's like at least like.
And they get there like a year before, right? Because they get their tickets really early.
The tickets go on sale in November, and then it's in April. Yeah, for 2 weekends, and then the other weekend is Stagecoach. So it's a month of just a lot of events, So that's the.
And it's a month of being a good landlord, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. So how did I get into it? I bought my first home in Costa Mesa. That's where I live. Then I had an opportunity to buy this property. And, I had been told that, hey, there are some Airbnbs here. And I'm like, here, really? Like, that's interesting. There were a few.
Yeah.
I know the neighbor was one. So they recommended that, hey, you can do that, They recommended. And I was like, well, wouldn't it be competing against you? And they were with you. And they said, no, because your home is going to be unique. So you're fine. You should. So that's how I started, and it's a long story about what happened with that property and all the things. That might be another session or something. What an adventure that was.
Like your first Airbnb?
My first investment property. Yeah. Oh man, I had a seller who squatted after we closed. I had to evict him. He destroyed the house and the backyard, the pool. I had to spend.
And that was your first investment? Was that a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
And did you have a hard time getting him out? I feel like now.
I had to evict him, a full eviction process, yes. And I had to pay the mortgage the whole time.
Was it like a couple of months?
It took like 6-7 months.
Oh my gosh, of him just in there?
But he had been there a few months and he wasn't going, and I didn't want to evict him because I'm like, well, he's the
oh my gosh,
owner.
Look
like,
how sweet you are. Stop.
Oh my gosh, I just.
Oh my gosh,
I've been through so much in this world.
And then you had to pay the mortgage. And
pay for the eviction too. That's expensive as well, you know. And then by the time he was out, the sheriffs had to remove him, and so destroyed the house, just destroyed it. So I had
But he lived there for quite a long time.
Yeah.
It's just so wild to me. Like,
I don't know. It's like, you just never know. There are so many kinds of people in this world.
That's what I'm like.
See,
what kind
that's
of
what I mean. Investing is not easy. It's tough, but
if you have the right team, right?
You get it done. I have an incredible
or the right
contractors.
realtor, because now I feel like if I used you as like my realtor and there was some shady stuff going on with like the seller, like you would know it. You'd be
I would know exactly like, what to do.
Yeah, but it's like those. Like I have it too, but it's like the street smart,
Oh,
it's like those skills where you're gonna be like, look, I don't trust this guy, and I think like I feel like that's one up. Like you need somebody like that on your team, or like your realtors,
or how to fix the problem,
to read people.
How to fix the problem, like and what to do. So I'm like, oh my gosh, now what do I do with this house? It's a disaster. And so
that's so wild.
Yeah, I know.
But it's happening so much now.
And it happened, and I had to just pick up the pieces, and I had to figure out how I was going to earn enough money to get it up and running. And I did it in 6 weeks. I had all the right teams. Like, they're very efficient. Like, I had my contracting team come in, and first of all, they needed to unload everything from the property. That cost me an arm and a leg. Then the city told me, we can't provide you any more of those bins for trash. I'm like, those big ones they drop off in your driveway.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so I was like, all right, now I need to go hire some more, junk removal. And so anyways, all of that, then getting the whole place back together, the pool, and having the entire swimming pool, converting it to saltwater, the entire backyard. It was so much. And then furnishing the whole place from head to toe for guests to be right on time for the events, for the festivals.
Yeah.
I did it in 6 weeks. You cannot imagine, like,
oh my gosh,
how crazy, like, paying people so much money
And you
just
already
to
had them
put
booked, so you had like to get them.
Yeah.
At least
no, I
then-
didn't have them booked.
Oh, you
I
didn't
I
have
had no, because I didn't have photos of the property.
Oh.
Yeah, it was still, so I had to. It was like just ordering like a house full of stuff. It's a 2,000 square foot home.
Oh my gosh.
So spending all this money, all these, it was insane. I was working like 80, 90 hours, like all night. I would have to figure all of the home situation, like problems, right?
Yeah.
So did all of that, and so right away I was in business. I had bookings right away, and I was still one of the fewer properties in the area, like very few properties in the area. So I could charge a higher rate, and it was like a really nice house, all the things. And then, when was it? In 2023, before the rates, like that's when the rates were going up, and they were up there. So that's when I picked up another property like a mile and a half away from there. Yeah.
Nice.
And that's like up on a hill, really beautiful mountain views. There's no home right next door, so that's cool, right? And so that property had already been on Airbnb for like a short-term rental for a couple of years. Like I think by that time, 2.5 to 3 years. It had excellent reviews. The cool thing about that one is like it's got a whole game room in the garage, so people really like that. But it is a little bit older than, but remember my first one I rehabbed, so it looked fabulous, right? And so this one kind of just, I had it with property management. I didn't like how, the how do I explain this? Like the money that they were making with the property, it was just not where it needed to be, unfortunately. So I actually took that over, and it's doing It's doing well, yeah. Like I'm not like, oh my God, is it gonna make cover
and
the
now
expenses?
You help people too, right?
Oh yeah, so I work with a lot of investors. I saw a lot of homes out in the Coachella Valley over there for clients. I teach them how to be Airbnb hosts. Like just yesterday, the past 2 days, I've been helping a client. He just wanted to rent out his little ADU. It's like a studio in his house, and he fixed it up, and so he's like, how do I do this, and so I'm like, well, Airbnb is going to be your friend, but you have to do 31 plus days, just because his city, they're pretty strict about, they won't give him a permit. They don't have permits for short-term rentals. So 31 days plus, but Airbnb is a great place to get them because, it's still renting. And then yesterday he's like, hey, I got 2 families, like two sets of people interested, and they want to stay 2 months or 4 months or whatever. Wow. Yeah, till April, a family, small family, like a mom and daughter and stuff. But yeah, I'm like, see, but I'm actually coaching him through like how to respond and how to, you don't want to just take anybody into your home either, especially long term over 30 days. It's California.
You can look at them, right? Yeah. And now you're
can't
like,
see
do
as
not
much.
do that.
You can't see.
Because don't we have ratings? Like, I think I'm rated really good.
You have ratings and stuff, but, so there are questions that you want to ask, and, because, you want to protect your property too. Yeah. You don't want to end up with.
Like, what kind of questions would you ask to see if they're not?
Yeah.
Like, do you ask if they, like, drink or do you? No.
I do have a prompt, like, okay, if you're asking to book my home, any of my homes, then there's a prompt. It's like the questions are like, hey, we look forward to hosting you. Just, tell us a little bit about yourself, such as like where you live, like where you're coming from, how long you plan to stay, the purpose of your trip to to the beautiful desert, California desert, so just things like
getting
that.
An idea of who they are.
But you want to sound friendly, at the same time,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Trying to make
and
sure that
inviting.
you're not-
Yeah. And inviting, not like, oh, yeah, like.
Trying to,
So I have to, these are like some of the things I teach my clients, because I'm like, well, you know, you want to
scare
have.
them off.
Yeah, because a lot of them, they're busy. They have their careers. They're just like the way they respond.
Yeah.
It's, you know, so, you know, being a super host on Airbnb for years, I've also learned what works and doesn't.
Yeah.
So I share. And then I have clients, they teach me stuff too.
Yeah.
It's amazing. They're like, hey, Nasheen, you know, I spent Thanksgiving weekend at home and I was just playing around with all these things on Airbnb and the new tools they have. I'm like, really? There's some new tools? Okay. Pricing tools, Price Labs. So, you know, I learned from them as well. So I love that. It's like this little community, always happy to help anyone. And yeah, I mean, my goal is to just help people build their wealth and, you know, help them grow, whatever it takes, you know? Mm-hmm.
And that is why, yep, I just knew right away. I'm like, this girl is amazing.
Aww.
I know.
So are you.
You're
amazing.
Because I'm like, I just want to help people too. No, it's definitely a vibe. Like,
it's all teamwork.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I can't do that without you, like, you know, being on the lending side and the whole lending team, you know. So it's all just
We're
teamwork.
all doing
It's
it
not
together.
me.
Yeah.
It's us. It's like a we, you know, and
100%. And as long, but it's just, there are some people that have, you kind of want to stay away from them, that just have like, I'm here for, like, if they have more of that mentality where it's like, me, I'm making a lot of money. Like, no, we're all doing this,
right.
You know? So those are the ones that I think usually hold up the process. Or when we have like attorneys on it, that's like intense too. With like a little more hands in the cookie jar. And then here, just kind of wrap it up here. What are your, 2025, just kind of looking ahead, what are your main goals of this year?
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So the main goal for this year is, you know, in regards to real estate, what I want to do is I really want to help families that have been waiting on the sidelines. They really need to do something. And rent right now with the fires, remember, it's going to keep going up. If you have a $500 increase in your rent, I have people telling me they rent you know, I was hosting my women's council.
500. Mine's 100 every
It can't be more than 10%, but they have cities where we don't have rent control, right? Like, so right now there's a moratorium, but, you know, it's tricky. I mean, you know, so they could just not renew your lease. I don't know. And then because their intent is to get somebody else in there who's willing to pay like $1,000 more, you know? So then now what happens to you? I have people expressing these fears to me. They're like, my lease ends in 3 months, but I just want to like renew it because I'm thinking like it's going to go up so much. And if they don't renew it, they can just tell me, hey, I won't renew it. And then give it to the next person who's willing to pay literally $500 to $1,000 more, or maybe more, you know, because there's such a shortage right now in regards to the rental market, you know. So it's to really help the families who have been renting, looking to buy or sell, and then getting them into their next property, you know, and trying to just really get creative. And helping families who want to invest. If you want to invest in real estate, it's a great time. Yes, the rates are higher, but you're going to get much better pricing. That's the ultimate truth, you know. And that pricing is not going to change. Your property tax is always going to reflect the price you closed at. Now, with the 2%, 1% lower rate, now you're going to be paying 5 to 10% more for it, you know. So you're not doing
bad.
yourself a favor. You're not by just and the other thing to please remember is the cash you have in your reserves to purchase, it's depreciating. Inflation is real. Like if you have, let's say, easy number, $100,000 in your account and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to invest it in real estate. 2 years later, you're not going to get $100,000 worth of goods and services. You may get $70,000 if you look at, you know,
because everything's just going up too.
Yes, and so you don't want it to turn into paper, So if you put it into real estate, you are doing yourself a favor by like, okay, it's there. It's a tangible asset, first and foremost. Yeah. And it's only going to go up over time. Yes. It's not like, in
what
6 months.
Too. Mm-hmm. I mean, even from 2020, I mean, the amount, like some people have quadrupled.
Yeah.
And they were told in that time, like, don't buy. Yeah. And then they're like, so glad I didn't listen.
I mean, I personally got all my properties during the craziest, global pandemic. Yeah. And people were like, I think you're really crazy to buy right now. You're just crazy. I've had people tell me that.
But it's also, you grew up with that. So it's something where you're like, everything's going to work out.
Honestly.
Like a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
It's like
you're so right.
Yeah, because like I didn't grow up with that. My dad did like the American dream. Like he did the work. Like he just retired after 40 years. Like he did buy his house, but we didn't do all like the investments and stuff. So I didn't really see that.
Yeah.
He did refinance now that I know, like, but just to get cars and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't like being taught. Like now I understand it, but yeah, I feel like a lot of people, if they didn't see that growing up, they're like, they're more scared.
Absolutely.
When you've seen it. You've seen all the toys that can come from it and the equity. And
all the things, the lifestyle. Yeah.
But once they do it, they will too.
I would call my family up and I'm like, oh, do you think I should buy this house? Literally, it was like the second month of COVID.
Yeah.
Like we thought, and then they had a few questions for me. Yeah. So, can you live in this property for 4 to 5 years? I'm like, I can live in it forever. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like better than where I'm at renting right now, right? So, and I needed to move because my lease was coming to an end, and so then they said, okay, then go ahead and buy it. Yeah, go bid on it for sure. And they were like 12, 13 buyers, cash buyers, Anyway, so then the second and the third, go ahead and buy it. Is
that always their answer?
Well, always. Yeah. They're like, give me the numbers, go ahead and buy it. Yeah. I swear. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, let's go. Because they know in their head, worst case scenario, we all know the worst case scenario, right? It is what it is. But once you have it, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like all the investors run into issues from time to time. It happens. Like, look at what happened to me, right? Yeah. The house was like destroyed. And I was like, oh my God. Like,
but you figured it out. Yeah. And then you made sure that you listed it right before like Coachella, so you knew that you.
I knew the time, and I made.
You're like, I have to have it that time because if you missed that, then you wouldn't have gotten that money back.
It grossed. It grossed like at least 8,000-9,000 that month.
Wow.
Like right away, which is great. But remember, there's the mortgage, there's the cleaning fees, there's maintenance, there's all these things.
And that was your first time doing it.
First time you're in business right away, just like that.
But after that guy, that was still.
It was an interesting experience. I hope no one has to go through that. But it's what happens. Not in some way, because here's the thing: it is tough to be an investor. It is tough to be a homeowner. Like you get a leak. I'm always fixing leaks. Yeah, fixed like 5 leaks in the past 3 months. But it's just part of it. If it was so easy, everybody would be homeowners and wealthy, and you wouldn't have, so I would say no matter how hard it gets, just try to get into a home. If you're a first time buyer, just go ahead and take that leap of faith. I promise you it's not so bad. It's really great to be a homeowner.
And they have condos too. Like I'm more
any condo, anything, whatever you can get into, take it.
Maintenance.
Yeah.
Because like I'm on my own. Like I'm not trying to. I don't want to do any leaks or anything.
Right.
But I'll do the condo, But then again, it's like just pick your poison because everything's going to be hard. If you do the condo, then you have to pay out here it could be $400 to $800 more a month.
Oh yeah,
but if you have the house, then you may have to handle.
You have a gardener and a pool guy, or you have all these maintenance people. You have to like trim your trees. So at the end of the day, it kind of averages out. Yeah.
That's true.
you know, because with with the HOA, some of them, like in the condos and townhouses, they cover like trash, water, and like you would have separate bills for all of these if you just own the homes. So in a way, it's like, you know, the pros and cons, but whatever you can get into,
just
get
in
it.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Nasheen, so much.
You.
I am going to have all of her information below. Feel free to comment, share, like, subscribe, and I will have all of her information.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. That was so fun. I loved your questions. That was great. Thank you.